Hey everyone! In today's video, we're going to talk about the ATI TEAS math portion and how you can achieve 100% on the ATI TEAS math section of the exam. Scoring 100% is actually very doable. You just need to know how to solve the type of problems that are going to be on the ATI TEAS exam for the math section. Essentially, if you know how to solve these problems, it's going to be the same step-by-step process on the exam, just different numbers. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what you need to know for the ATI TEAS math portion of the exam, and then we're also going to do a walkthrough of the various practice problems so you can see step-by-step how to solve them, and that way you can apply it when you do your own practice problems and then for the exam so that you can get 100%. So let's get into it. My name's Jessica, and I'm a doctoral student and nursing educator specializing in psychiatry. In this channel, we make content for nursing students, pre-nursing students, and nurses to support them in their nursing journey. If this sounds like something you're interested in, make sure to hit that subscribe button below. For the math portion of the ATI TEAS exam, here's what you're going to need to understand. You're going to need to know algebra and numbers. This is going to be decimals, fractions, percentages, how to perform basic calculation, different operations with fractions and decimals, word problems, rounding, estimation, finding slopes, and creating equations from word problems. You'll also need to understand different measurements and data, looking at converting, geometry, interpreting tables, and evaluating information in tables. So let's go through some practice problems step by step to help you guys understand these concepts. So for this first problem, Juanita made an investment in the stock market. The value of her investment declined by 20%, but then it increased by 50% from the reduced value. What was the overall percent change in the value of her investment? We know that her investment declined by 20%, so we're going to say that her investment is X because we don't know what that is yet. And if it's going to decline by 20%, we know that it is then going to be 80% of whatever it was to begin with. So a way to figure that out is to multiply it by 0.8. So a good way to think about this is that if something is 100% of something, it is itself times 1. So then we know that this initial investment, once it is declined by 20%, means that the initial investment times 0.8 is that new number once it has declined by 20%, but then it increases by 50%. So 50% of 0.8x is going to be 0.4x because it is half. So now we want to know what the overall percent change is. So we're going to add that 0.8x plus 0.4x. And the answer is going to be 1.2x. Now 1x would be where there was no change. We started at 1x. So the change is going to be 1.2x minus 1x with a total change of 0.2x increase. 0.2 can then be converted to 20%. This next problem is asking 60 is 15% of what number? So I'm just change the color for you guys so you can see the two different problems. So a way to figure this out is that 60 over an unknown number equals 15 over 100 because 15% is 15 over 100. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply 60 by 100, so we get 6,000, and now we're going to know that 6,000 is 15x because we cross multiply them both, and we want to make them equal because we're trying to figure out what x is. So we'll then take 6,000 divided by 15, and x equals 400. The next problem, Mary is restocking the inventory of first aid supplies. The ratio of ointment to bandages to swabs should be maintained at 2 to 5 to 8. The current inventory is 6 tubes of ointment, 10 badges, and 20 swabs. How many 2 types of supplies does she have to add to bring the ratio to the specific value? Okay, So in order to solve this problem, the first thing we're going to do is write out what we have. So we have 6 ointments, 10 bandages, and 20 swabs. We're then going to write out what this question wants our ratio to be so we can compare. So we have 2 ointments, 5 bandages, and 8 swabs. So what we can see is that we have 3 times the amount of ointment, we have 2 times the amount of bandages, and we have about 2.5 times the amount of swabs. So ideally, to make these ratios correct, we would want to make our ratios times 3. So we already have our 6 ointments, so that's all set. But we need 15 bandages and we need 24 swabs, which means that we need 5 more bandages and we need 4 more swabs. The next problem, a hospital maintenance department is installing new sanitary molding at the junction of the floor and the wall along both sides of the hall. The plan drawing for the hallway has a scale of 1/4 of an inch to a foot. The hallway measures 7 3/4 inches long on the plan. How many pieces of 8-foot long molding should the maintenance department order? So first we know that the hallway measures 7 3/4 inches long. So what we want to do is we want to convert this to a fraction. So that is going to be 31/4 inches long. Then we know that the scale needs to be 1/4 of an inch for every foot. So we're then going to convert that to the 31 feet. Because we have 31/1/4. That's why we have the 31/4. So roughly what we need is 4. The next problem, a medication is being administered to a client intravenously via a solution that has a 5% concentration of the medication by volume of the solution. At 8 a.m., Alice checks the remaining contents for the client IV drip bag and notes that there were 780 cc's of solution remaining. When returning at 10, there was 300 cc's of solution left in the IV bag. Which of the following correctly expresses the unit rate which the medication is being dispensed? So the first thing, this is super wordy, so we want to take out the important details. So at 8 a.m., the bag had 780 cc's, so we're going to write that down. When she returned at 10 a.m., there were 300 cc's. This has a difference of 480 cc's. However, we want to find the rate. So the difference between 8 and 10 is 2 hours. So we're going to take 480 and we're going to divide it by 2 to find the rate per hour, which is 240 cc's per hour. Okay, now let's talk estimations and rounding. So what is the volume of 2,753 cubic centimeters to the nearest liter? So you need to memorize that 1 cubic centimeter equals 0.001 liters. So we're going to take 2,753 and we're going to multiply it by 0.001. An easy way to do this is just move the decimal place over 3 spots, and then you will move the other decimal place over 3 spots, and we will get 2.753. So we're going to round up to 3. So this next problem, what is the value of 61 minus 40 in parentheses times 36 minus 18 in parentheses? So when something is in parentheses, we have to do the parentheses first. So we're going to have 61 minus 40 is 21, multiplied by the 36 minus 18, which is 18. So 21 times 18 is going to give us 378. So the answer is B. Moving on to the next problem, a leaky faucet drips water at a rate of 22 milliliters per hour. How much water drips from the faucet in 2 days? So if we have 22 milliliters per hour, we know there's 24 hours in a day. So we're going to multiply 24 times 2 days, which will give us 22 times 24 times 2. And that is going to equal 1,056. So our answer is C. Moving on to the next problem. There are 30 chocolate chip cookies in a package. A case consists of 24 packages. If the average breakage rate for these cookies is 1.72%, what would the expected number of broken cookies per case expressed as the nearest whole number? Okay, so this is super wordy. So the first thing we want to look at what they're asking. So they're asking the expected number of broken cookies per case. So let's figure out how many cookies are in a case. A case consists of 24 packages, and each package has 30 cookies. So 24 times 30 is going to give us 720 cookies per case. So the breakage rate is 1.72. So what we want to do is multiply this by the 720. So 1.72% is 0.0172, because remember 100% is 1. So we are multiplying the 720 by 0.0172, and we will get 12.38. So we are going to round that to 12. So the next one, what is the value of 27 times 43? So you're going to have a calculator on the TEAS exam, so this should be an easy question to answer. So you're just going to plug in the 27 times 43, which is going to be 1,161, which gives us. Okay, now let's look at solving word problems. So Karina buys lunch at a cafeteria for herself and her son. They both get soda for $1.50. Karina gets an $8 sandwich for herself, and her son has mac and cheese for $4.75. How much does Karina spend altogether on lunch? Okay, so first thing we want to do is identify what the question is, because word problems get really wordy. So we want to know how much she spent altogether on lunch. So we know that they both got a soda for $1.50. So that's $1.50 plus $1.50. Then we know Karina gets an $8 sandwich. So we're then going to add $8. And her son gets the mac and cheese for $4.75. So we will add $4.75. The trick of this question is that they both get a soda for $1.50. So they're really trying to make sure that you add both of those $1.50s. So we're going to add all these up, and you'll have a calculator on the ATI TEAS exam, and you will get 1575. So the answer is C. Jamal just received a promotion at work, and now he wants to begin saving money. His new salary is $2,875 a month, and his bills come to $2,360 a month. He also wants to have some fun, so he plans to save half of what's left over after paying bills. So again, we want to see, what is it asking? How much will he save each month? So we know his salary is $2,875. Positive, so he's making that in. We know that his bills, which are going to be a deduction, is $2,360. So we want to subtract this from his salary, which is going to give us $515. Then we are going to look and see that he plans to save half of what's left over after paying bills. So we're going to divide 515 by 2, and we're going to get $257.50. So the answer is B. The next question, a teacher is handing out crayons to students that they will use in an art project. drawing either a landscape scene or a portrait of a family member. Of the students, 9 have chosen to draw the landscape, 3 have chosen to draw the portrait, and the teacher has 60 crayons and wants to distribute them equally. So again, super wordy. So let's underline or highlight what the main question is, which is how many crayons should she give each student? Okay, so first we want to identify the number of students. So 9 of the students are going to draw a landscape and 3 are going to draw portraits. So we have 12 students. We know that the teacher has 60 crayons, so we're going to divide 60 by 12 and we're going to get 5. So that is the answer, 5 crayons, so it is A. Tyler makes $80 of profit on every 6 pallets of strawberries he sells at the roadside stand. It takes 2 bales of straw to grow each pallet of strawberries. How many bales of straw will Tyler need to earn $400 in profit? So again, what is the question? How many bales of straws will Tyler need to earn $400? So we want to find $400 in profit. We know that he makes $80 of profit on every 6 pallets of strawberries that he sells. So what we want to do is take 400 and divide it by 80. We find that that gives us 5. So we need 5 times as many pallets as you would need to make $80 in profit. So we're going to take 5 and we are going to multiply it. And we're going to multiply that by 6, and that is going to give us 30 pallets. If we look back at the question, it's asking how many bales of straw. So it's not asking about pallets, it's asking about bales of straw. And if we go back and look at the problem, 2 bales of straw grow each pallet. So we're going to take the 30 pallets and we're going to multiply it by 2, which is going to give us the 60 bales of straw. So the answer is going to be D. For the next problem, Caitlin lives 10 miles from her work. Each day, she travels an average of 40 miles per hour to get to work in the morning. In the afternoon, due to heavier traffic, she averages only 30 miles per hour on the same trip home. How much time does Caitlin spend traveling to and from work? So again, what is the question? How much time does Caitlin spend traveling to and from work? So 2, she is traveling 40 miles per hour, and it is 10 miles from her house to her work. So we're going to take our 10 miles and we're going to divide it by 40 miles per hour. So we're going to get 1/4 of an hour is the time that it takes to go from her house to her work. So this is going to be 15 minutes because an hour is 60 minutes. So 1/4 of 60 is 15. So from work to home, she is traveling 30 miles per hour. So again, it's 10 miles. We're dividing 10 by the 30 miles per hour. So we're getting 1/3 of an hour, which is going to equal 20 minutes. So how much time does Caitlin spend traveling to and from work is 15 minutes plus 20 minutes is 35 minutes. The answer is B. A therapist is considering jobs at 2 different clinics. Clinic A pays the therapist $25 per client treated plus a flat salary of $200, and each therapist is assigned 30 clients a week. Clinic B pays the therapist $40 per client treated with no additional salary. What is the minimum number of clients per week the therapist would need to treat at Clinic B to exceed the income he'd make at Clinic A? So first thing we're going to do is write equations for Clinic A and Clinic B. So Clinic A pays the therapist $25 per client. So we're going to do 25P, P standing for per client, plus a flat rate of $200. So that is our equation. So then we know that there's going to be 30 clients a week. So we're going to do 25 times 30, because 30 is our P per clients, plus the 200. So this is going to equal $950 per week. Okay, so now we're going to create an equation for Clinic B. So Clinic B is paid $40 per client, and that is it. So we want to figure out how many patients the person at Clinic B would have to see to exceed that $950 a week. So 40p equals 950. We're going to divide both sides by 40 so that p equals 23.75. So to answer the question, we need to know how many patients they would have to see at Clinic B to exceed the income of Clinic A. So it needs to be greater than 24 patients. So our answer is going to be B. So the next question, a highway on-ramp contains, so each day 36 gallons of water are applied to a garden. 1/4 of this amount is used to grow vegetables. The water applied to the vegetables must first pass through a filter, and the filter can process 360 gallons of water before being replaced, and it is only used to filter the water applied to the vegetables. After how many days will the filter need to be replaced? Okay, so each day we have 36 gallons of water, and 1/4 of this is used to grow vegetables. So we're going to take 36 and divide it by 4, which is going to give us 8 gallons of water are used per day to water the vegetables. So we know that the filter is going to process 360 gallons before it has to be replaced. So we're going to take 360 and we're going to divide it by 8, which is going to give us 40. So this means after 40 days, we'll have to replace the filter. Okay, now let's talk about algebra. Solve for x in the equation above. Which of the following is correct? So 2x plus 16 equals 30. So first thing we're going to do is subtract 16 from both sides. So now you're going to get 2x equals 14. The next step is to divide both sides by 2 so we can isolate x by itself to know what it equals. So what we can find is that x equals 7. So the answer is going to be A. For number 2, they want us to simplify 5y minus 11 plus 9 plus 81. So if we're going to simplify, this just means combining everything together to make it the simplest form. So what this means is we want to have the 5y and the 9y be combined, and we want the negative 11 and the positive 81 to be combined. In order to see the positive and negatives, I'm going to box them so you can remember what to put together. So we have the positive 5y and the positive 9y, and then we have the negative 11 and the positive 81. So we're going to take 5y and 9y and we're going to add them together because they're both positive. So we're going to get 14y, and then we're going to have the negative 11 plus the 81. So two different ways you can do this. You can have negative 11 and add 81 to it, or you can have positive 81 and subtract 11. So either way, you're going to get 70. So our final answer is going to be 14y plus 70. So the answer will be C. For the next problem, they want us to solve for b in the equation above, which is 10b minus 21 equals 9. So remember from the first problem, it's the same thing. They're just using b instead of x, and we want to isolate that variable by itself. So the first thing we're going to do is add 21 to both sides so that it cancels out on the left, and then on the right we're left with 30. So we have 10b equals 30. Divide both sides by 10 again to isolate that b. So b is going to equal 3. For the next problem, which of the following is correct? So Find the sum of the expression 44x minus 1 and 12x plus 5. So the sum, it means that they want you to add these two equations together. So to do this, we're going to have 44x minus 1, and we're going to add 12x plus 5. And again, we want to combine that 44x and the 12x, and we want to combine the negative 1 and the positive 5. So we're going to have 44x, which is positive. We're going to have 12x, which is positive. We're going to have the negative 1, and we're going to have the 5. So first, we're going to add together the x's. So we have 44x plus 12x, which is going to give us 56x. And then we have negative 1 plus 5. So you can either think about this as 5 minus 1 or negative 1 plus 5. Either way, it's going to be 4. And that is our final answer. So the answer is D. So the next problem, we are going to solve for A, and the equation is 5a over 2 equals 2a plus 5. So we're going to write this out, and the first thing we're going to do is multiply both sides by 2 because we want to get rid of the 2 on that side. So that's going to leave us with 5a on one side, and on the other side we have to put the problem in parentheses because we have to multiply both of the 2a and the 5 by 2. So that's going to give us 4a plus 10 on that side. So 5a equals 4a plus 10. So the next thing that we're going to do is to isolate the a's on one side. So we are going to subtract 4a from both sides, and that is going to leave us with a equaling 10. And so our answer is going to be D. So let's take a look at arithmetic. So we want to convert 0.32 to a fraction and a percentage. So there's two parts to this question. So first, let's start with percentage. So to find a percentage, we are going to take our number 0.32 and we're going to put it over 1 because that's what it is. Anything over 1 is itself. And we're going to set this equal to x over 100 because 100% is 1. So we want to figure out what percentage 0.32 is of 100%. So we're going to cross multiply, and we're going to do 100 times 0.32 is going to equal x equaling 1 because we're doing that like cross multiplying and we want them to be equal. We are then going to put both sides over 1 so we can cancel that out, which is going to leave us with x equals 32%. Now this is a lot of steps. You could just look at it and know 0.32 is 32% because 1 is 100%. But okay, so that leaves us with two choices, which is C and D. So let's move on to figuring out what it is as a fraction. So if 0.32 is a fraction, it's going to be 0.32 over 1, just how we started with the percentage. And then we are going to set that equal to x over 25 because both of our choices have 25 as the denominators. So we are going to do that same cross multiplication. So we do the 0.32 times 25 equals x times 1, and we are going to multiply both sides by 1, which will cancel that one out. So we have x equals 0.32 times 25. So when we calculate that, we will get 8. So 8 equals x. So what this means is we're going to plug 8 into the x over 25 because that's what we were trying to figure out. X is what number over 25 equals 0.32 over 1 because again, 0.32, anything over 1 is itself. So our answer is 8 over 25. So the answer is C. The next question, what is the least common multiple of 4, 8, and 10? So let's just walk through this. Let's first start looking at 4. So 4 does not go into 10, so A is out. 4 does go into 20 5 times, 4 goes into 40 10 times, and 4 goes into 80 20 times. So that leaves us still with those 3 answers. So let's move on to looking at 8. 10 is already out, so 8 does not go into 20, so B is out. But it does go into 40 5 times, and it goes into 80 10 times. And what about 10? Well, 10 goes into 44 times, and it goes into 880 times, but they're asking for the least common multiple, so that is going to be C. For this next problem, we're going to order the following fractions from least to greatest. And for learning purposes, let's take a look at these different fractions. So we have 1/4, 2/5, and 3/8. So the best way to do this for learning, we're going to draw out these different pie charts. So first we have 1/4. So we can divide the circle into 4 and we can know that 1/4 is this section of the circle. When we look at 2/5, we can then draw a circle, divide it into 5 equal parts, and then we can shade 2 of them. And then we can do the same thing for 3/8. So now we can sort of see what is the largest and the smallest. However, we can sort of see that the 3/8 and the 1/4 are pretty close. So let's take a dive a little bit deeper. So the first thing that we're going to do is convert all of these fractions to a common denominator. And then it will be much easier to see what is the largest and the smallest. So we need to find a number that goes into 4, 5, and 8. So I can tell you right off the bat that that is going to be 40 because 4 goes into 40 10 times, 5 goes into 40 8 times, and 8 goes into 40 5 times. So let's convert these all to the fractions with a common denominator. So 1/4 will be 10 over 40. 2/5 will be 16 over 40, and 3/8 will be 15 over 40. So now we can see that the smallest is going to be 1/4, followed by 3/8 and then 2/5. So our answer is going to be B. Looking at the next problem, what is the sum of 1 5/8 and 7/12? So again, the first thing we have to do is to convert the 1 5/8 to a fraction that does not have a whole number at the beginning. So what we want to do is 8 times 1 is 8 plus 5 is 13. So this is going to be 13 over 8. We are then going to also find a common denominator because if we want to add these together, we want them to have a common denominator. So we have 8 and 12. So a number that 8 and 12 both go into, the lowest is going to be 24. So that will be our common denominator. So what we'll do is take the 13 over 8 and we will convert it to have a common denominator of 24, which will be 39 over 24. Then we're going to take this 7/12, and that is going to be 14 over 24. So if we take 39 over 24 and we add 14 over 24, we're going to keep the same denominator because we are adding them together. So we want to keep the same denominator. So the answer is going to be 53 over 24, which is then going to convert to 2 and 5 over 24. For this next problem, what is the value of 8 plus 2 plus 5 in parentheses times 6? So we want to remember pretty please, my dear Aunt Sally. And each letter stands for a different order of operation. So it's going to be powers, parentheses, multiplication, division, adding, and subtracting. So if we take this problem, 8 plus the 2 plus 5 in parentheses times 6, we know that the first thing we're going to do is solve for the parentheses. So we have the 2 plus 5, that is going to give us 10. Then the next order of operation is going to be to multiply. So we're going to have the 10 times 6, that's going to be 60, and then we're going to add. So the answer is going to be 68. So for this first problem, the graph shows the number of ink cartridges and cases of paper purchased for different people. If ink cartridges cost 15 and paper is priced at 25 per case, which person spent the most money? Okay, so let's first start with Demetria, and then we'll have Charles, and then Beth, and then Arthur. So first, if we look at Demetria, it looks like he bought 0 ink, but 5 papers. So he is going to be 25. So he is going to have 0 ink and 5 papers. So he is going to have 25, which is what paper is priced at, times 5 equals 125. Then if we move on to Charles, Charles has 1 ink and 4 papers. So he is going to have 15 for the ink plus 4 times 25 for the paper. So that is going to leave us with 115. We then have Beth, who has 3 inks and 3 papers. So that is going to be 3 times 15 plus 3 times 25, and that is going to equal 120. Moving on to Arthur. Arthur has 6 inks and 1 paper, so we're going to have 6 times 15 plus 25. So that is going to give us 100. So we can see who spent the most was Demetria. So the answer is D. Use the graph above to correctly complete the statement. When the year-to-year sale changes of all 3 drugs are compared, drug blank had the greatest increase in cases sold between blank and blank. So first we have to look at each drug for each sale year. So A was 1,000, then it popped up to 1,100, then 1,200, and then 1,400. If then we look at drug B, that is going to start at 1,400, then it pops to 1,400, and then it goes to 1,800, and then to 2,100. Then we will look at drug C. So those are these 4, and drug C will start at 1,600, and then it goes to 1,800, and then 2,000, and then 2,400. So when the year-to-year changes of all three drugs are compared, drug blank had the greatest increase sold between blank and blank. So we have to see what the changes are. So if we first look at A, you can see that there is 100 change, another 100 change, and then a 200 change. If we then look at B, there is no change, a 400 change, and then a 300 change. And then if we look at C, we have a 200 change, a 200 change, and a 400 change. So we have two that have a change of 400, which is drug B from year 2008 to 2009, and then drug C from 2009 to 2010. So if we write these in, so now looking at this, B from 2008 to 2009, I also have listed as 400. And sometimes when you guys are doing this, you'll catch yourself making errors, especially on tables like this where things are very small and they're difficult to see. So I kind of know that it's either B or D. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at C between 2009 to 2010. And when I compare it, it is definitely 400. But then if I go back and I look at B between 2008 and 2009, I see that it's actually 500 because in 2009, it's not 1800, it's actually 1900. So that helps me to figure out, oh, I made an error in reading this table, but now I have now figured it out, and the answer is then B. All right, so looking at some statistics, what is the median of 3, -6, 5, 1, -1, and 4? So first we want to just in general know the difference between the mean, median, and mode. So the mode, you can think of, it starts with MO, so that is seen most often. The median is the middle number. And the mean is if you add up all the numbers and then divide it by the amount of numbers that there are, that's going to give you the mean. So, but we're being asked to find the median. So this is the middle number. So the first thing we want to do is rearrange the numbers in order. And when we say middle number, this means when we cancel out numbers, the one that is left over. Not to get confused with the mean where you add them together and divide. So first we're going to get rid of -6 and the 5. We get rid of 1 and the 4. So now we're left with 1 and 3. And the number that is between 1 and 3 is 2. So the median is going to be 2. So the answer is C. So Ruby tracks the gallons of gasoline remaining in her car's tank and the miles that she drives. If she wants to refill the tank when there are 2 gallons remaining, how many total miles can she travel before she has to stop to refuel, assuming the trend is correct on the graph? So what I did is I tried to find a point on the graph that was easy to read, was directly on the lines. So at 6 gallons, she has 300 miles driven. But we also want to see that where she started was at 16 gallons. So the difference between 16 and 6 is 10 gallons. So she used 10 gallons to go 300 miles. So, and that can be seen in this orange line here. So what this means is that she is going or using 30 miles per gallon of gas. So she's going 30 miles for every gallon of gas that she uses. So if we want to wait until she has 2 gallons left, we can then see this line in purple that I added to the graph, because that's going to be when she has 2 gallons left. So we can see that you can't really tell what that number is using the graph. So we have to calculate it. So she started at 16 gallons of gas, and we want to know the number when she has used 14, because we want to know when she's had 2 left. 30 miles per gallon, we would do 14 times 30 equals 420. All right, let's talk covariance and causality. So researchers in Yellowstone National Park noticed that the wolf population increased, stream water quality also increased. In an area with fewer wolves, water quality was consistently lower. Which of the following best describes the relationship between the wolf population and water quality? So first, as wolf population increases, water quality also increases. And as wolves decrease, the water quality decreases. So this means that there is a positive correlation between the wolf population and the water. And we can see this by drawing a graph, which would look like this, which would show a positive correlation. You're going to want to know what a positive correlation is and a negative correlation. You're going to want to know what an inverse relationship is. An inverse relationship is also when something increases, the other decreases. So we know that it's not D. That doesn't make sense. We know that it's not C because they're both increasing. We know that B is correct, but it's asking about the type of relationship. So it's going to have a positive covariation, which is the best answer. Now, a study was performed to determine the relationship between the amounts of pollen in the air and the frequency of asthma attacks. Researchers hypothesized that higher levels of pollen lead to increased asthma attacks. For 3 months, they measure pollen levels, frequency of asthma attacks among 80 asthma sufferers. It was determined that on days where pollen count was higher, there were more asthma attacks, and on days where pollen count was lower, there were fewer. Which of the following describes the scenario? So we know that a higher amount of pollen equals a higher amount of asthma attacks. So we know also that a lower pollen count equals a lower number of asthma attacks. So we know that this is a positive correlation. So we know it's either A or C. So let's look at what they say. A says that positive correlation, number of asthma attacks is the independent variable and pollen count is the dependent variable. So the independent variable is what changes that creates a change in the dependent variable. So the dependent variable is dependent on the independent variable. So in this case, the asthma attack is the dependent variable because it literally depends on the amount of pollen that is in the air. So the answer is C. Which of the following is not an example of a negative covariance? So we want to find what is not a negative covariance. So an altitude increase with a temperature decrease. So one increases, one decreases. That is a negative covariance. So that is not the answer. The more a person works, the more fatigued they are. So that one is a positive covariance because as work goes up, fatigue goes up. So that one is most likely our answer, but let's just look at the other two. As a dog's age increases, the strength of the muscle decreases. So one goes up, age goes up, strength goes down. That's a negative. The more kilometers an airplane travels, the less fuel it has in the tank. So again, the more it travels, the increase, then the less fuel in the tank. That's a decrease. So that is a negative covariance. So the answer is going to be B. All right, let's do some geometry problems. So what is the parameter of the figure above? So the best way to figure this out is to create figures that we can easily find the perimeter of. So we're going to create a rectangle, and then we also have half a circle. So we're going to add the perimeter of this rectangle and half a circle. So the perimeter is the area around. So we have 7 on one side, 7 on the other, 4 on the bottom. And the perimeter we want to find is this orange. I'm just going to outline it so we can remember. So we want the 7 plus 7 plus 4 because we don't want that inner top part of the rectangle because that's not part of it. Then we need to add this half a circle. So we know that the diameter of the circle is 4, which would give us a radius of 2. So 2 pi is going to be the area of our half circle. So we have 7 plus 7 is 14, plus 4 is 18, plus 2 pi. So our answer is going to be C. For the next problem, what is the area of the frame in the above diagram if the picture inside has a length of 8 and a width of 4? So we want to find this shaded area. We know that area is length times height. So what we want to do is figure out this outer square and then subtract the inner square. So we're going to have area of the larger square, that is the orange, minus the area of the smaller square, which is going to be the pink. And we know that the smaller square has a length of 8 and a width of 4. So let's calculate it out. So area of the larger square is going to be 8 times 10, which is 80, minus the area of the smaller square is 8 times 4, which is going to be 32. And that is going to give us a final answer of 48. So that is going to be C. The diameter of the circle above has a length of x inches. The area of the circle is 16 pi squared inches. What is the value of x? So first we need to know the equation for the area of a circle. So because we know that the area is 16r squared. So the area of a circle equals pi r squared. And now we know that this is the area of our circle here is going to be r squared equals 16, because 16 is what our area is. So in order to figure out r, we're going to find the square root of r, so we cancel out the 2, and the square root of 16, which is 4. So we know that our r is 4. So x is going to equal 4 times 2, which is going to be 8, and so our answer is D. All right, let's talk converting and measurements. So what is the approximate volume of 15 fluid ounces of liquid in liters? We know that 1 fluid ounce is 30 milliliters and 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters. So the thing with the T's is they will give you these conversions. You don't need to memorize them, but let's go through it. So 15 fluid ounces. We're first going to convert that to milliliters. So 15 fluid ounces. So we're going to set this up like how we want to solve it. So we want to figure out how many liters 15 fluid ounces is. So 15 over x, which is what we're trying to find, times 30 milliliters over 1 fluid ounce, because that's what it equals. 1 fluid ounce is 30 milliliters, times 1 liter over 1,000 milliliters, because that is what it equals. So we're just going to multiply across. 15 times 30 is going to be 450, divided by 1,000 is going to be 0.45 liters, and that is going to be our answer. All right, next problem. Mike's cat weighs 3.3 kilograms. Note that a kilogram is 2.2 pounds and 1 pound is 16 ounces. How many ounces does Mike's cat weigh? So again, we're going to set it up the same way. 3.3 kilograms over, we don't know, we're trying to figure it out, times 2.2 pounds over 1 kilogram times 16 ounces over 1 pound. And now we are just going to multiply across, and we're going to get 116 ounces. A dose of 2 teaspoons per day of cough medicine is being prescribed. A measuring device marked in milliliters is being used. Note that 1 teaspoon is 5 milliliters and 1,000 milliliters is a liter. How many liters should be prescribed? So we set this up with the 2 teaspoons times 5 milliliters over 1 teaspoon. And we also want to note that they need enough for 14 days. So we are going to then take that number, which is 10 milliliters per day, and we're going to multiply it by 14 days, is 140 milliliters but then they want us to convert that to liters. So we know that there is 1,000 milliliters per liter. So 140 milliliters is going to be 0.14 liters. So the answer is going to be C. So now that we've done a walkthrough of various practice problems that you will see on the ATI TEAS exam, just remember that now it's time to practice, practice, practice. It is very doable to score 100 on the ATI TEAS exam. You just need to understand how to solve problems like this, and the best way to do that is to practice. If you understand how to solve these types of problems, then you got it. You can easily score 100 on the ATI TEAS math portion. If you want to access tons of practice problems related to each individual section of the ATI TEAS math portion of the exam, you can check out the math Quizlet. I will link it down below, and this gives various practice problems for each section of the ATI TEAS math portion of the exam. There's also an ATI TEAS math study guide. I will also link that down below, and that will go over how to solve these different types of problems step by step in a written format. There's also other Quizlet decks for the other portions of the exam, as well as study guides, so definitely make sure to check those out below, and I'll see you guys next time. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. Thanks guys, bye.